We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
With the GOP winning the House but losing the Senate, and a fairly lackluster performance in the midterm elections, there's a fair amount of despondency upon the political right. And with that, naturally, more than a couple of recriminations. But is it all doom and gloom, or are there some silver linings, perhaps? Well, to help us figure that out, we're joined by longtime host of this here Liberty Nation radio show, and LN's senior political analyst, Mr. Tim Donner, who wrote a stupendous article on this topic recently. Thanks for joining us, Tim. Let's talk about what's happened then. It's not all thunderbolts and lightning for the GOP, is it?
Well, look, let's get down to the basics now that Republicans and frankly even Democrats have gotten over the shock of what happened. And I'd like to say on November 8th, but it's a concluding or reaching its pinnacle on November 8th because we don't have election days anymore. We have election seasons. Some states began as early as September voting. How else would you explain John Fetterman, who can't even put a sentence together, getting elected? But I digress. I think now that we have this election in the rearview mirror and already looking forward to 2024, now that Donald Trump is officially in the race, it's important to note that conservatives got greedy in thinking, well, of course, we're going to take the House. It's a matter of how many seats, and looks more and more like we're going to take the Senate. And look, Real Clear Politics even predicted that the GOP would pick up 3 seats, and they are truly impartial analysts that go through all the polls. So this was a shocking outcome. But through it all, we have to remember that there was only one thing that was absolutely critical, that the Republicans absolutely, totally, positively had to do, and that was to take control of the gavel in the House, even though they'll have a very slim majority, maybe the slimmest in decades. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy Pelosi managed two years with just a majority of 5.
That's true. Well, the important thing, of course, is that the Republicans get to set the agenda and chair the committees and conduct the investigations. So let's start with that baseline that they had to win the House. And because conservatives started becoming overly ambitious, not all of them, but most of them, including the pollsters and Democrats who appeared despondent, they did win the House. And the reason that's important is, the investigations, the agenda, but most of all, they can now stop the insane progressive agenda of Joe Biden and the Democrats. They're not going to be able to get anything through. We're going to have 2 years of gridlock. And as far as the Republicans are concerned, that's exactly what they want. So they get another shot at the White House in 2024. So that combined with the fact, look, they lost the Senate, but that does not affect their ability to stop Biden's agenda. It only means that they can't stop his judicial appointments and they can't stop Senate investigations run by the Democrats, but it does not affect their ability to stop cold, build back better and the like that the Democrats foist on the American people.
I think what we might see is that long-promised unity from Joe Biden, because
because he has to.
He has to. Yeah. Now he pointed out the other day that he would be willing to work with anybody who's willing to work with him. But what he really meant, if you listen to the words that he said and then looked at his caveats that he included, is that as long as they're on the principles that I want to do, that it doesn't impact reproductive rights, that it doesn't impact our climate agenda plans. And I think he's setting himself up for a major failure here.
Well, I think the way he may be setting himself up for failure is by being all giddy about these midterm results, as if it was a mandate for him to continue his left-wing agenda. If he interprets it as that, then yes, he's going to be in big trouble, because in no way was this a rubber stamp by the voters of the Build Back Better mentality. But I think there's also some other things that happen that are encouraging for the Republicans. I mean, Florida is now Alabama politically for the Republicans. They absolutely dominate the state. DeSantis won by almost 20 points. He was expected to win by maybe a dozen, but he won by almost double that, together with Marco Rubio's victory re-election to the Senate. Florida has become ruby red and has produced a future star. He's a star already for the GOP, but he's going to be a future star in the presidential stakes, whether it's 2024, 2028, and that, of course, is Ron DeSantis. So they have a base. And here's the thing that's probably the most encouraging for Republicans over the long haul. They also made some gains in New York, which is important. The Democrats had the worst victory in New York that you could possibly have. Hochul barely hung on to win a first full term as governor. But beyond New York, with Florida now in the bank for Republicans, and Ohio also now in the bank for Republicans, the governor there, Mike DeWine, won by 25 points. Even J.D. Vance, controversial Trump-backed candidate, won by 7. You add the 47 electoral votes of Ohio and Florida to the 40 of Texas, and all of a sudden, the Republicans have a solid red troika of 87 electoral votes, which is not the 101 that Democrats have in California, New York, and Illinois, but it comes awfully close. So the electoral map has sort of under the radar really solidified for Republicans for 2024.
Middle America becomes a battleground once again.
Yes,
Tim Donner. We're talking silver linings with Tim Donner for the GOP. We're going to be right back after this short break discussing what comes next for American politics. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril. Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe space.
You only did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.